to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. As Prime Minister Modi's government finishes 2 years at the centre, we are here to take a look at his track record of governance. For this, I have a panel of experts. We have Dr. Sanjay Baru, a former editor and political commentator. We have Samvit Patra, national spokesperson for the BJP. Manish Tiwari, former Union Minister INB with UPA government and also national spokesperson for the Congress Party. And Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who is a Rajya Sabha MP and also a political commentator. Dr. Baru, I'll let us journalists set the agenda before these two come in. What is your report card for the Modi government? You begin with a laugh, okay?
Report card brings bad memories. We once prepared a report card for the Manmohan Singh government, which,
I remember now.
Got me into some trouble.
I forgot, yes.
I would say that, at the end of 1 year, Manmohan Singh was given 6 out of 10. I would give Mr. Modi also 6 out of 10 at the end of 2 years.
That's interesting. I should also remind people that Dr. Baru served, he's a media advisor in Dr. Manmohan Singh's PMO, and he's written a very interesting book, which I think we all should read.
And 6 out of 10 because I think the expectations were higher and the delivery has been below expectations.
The expectations are high, Dr. Baru, because Prime Minister Modi set those high expectations for himself in his campaign. He promised the world to the people.
Absolutely, yeah. So therefore, I think in my, and I've written this in my columns, I think the first year was wasted. And I think many in the government also recognize that. They wasted the entire first year in a variety of issues. First of all, the focus on the economy. I think they got into this argument, which I never understood, of Arvind Subramaniam and their economic advisors, that Big Bang reform, the days of Big Bang reform are over, that we'll do incremental reform. I don't think that was a correct strategy at all. It's in the first 6 months that you do all the difficult things. The Congress party would not have been able to oppose anything brought to Parliament within those first 6 months. They were so shell-shocked from the defeat of 2014 that this whole resistance that you find in Parliament in the last year would just not have been there. So the first 6 months should have been used to get the GST through, all the land bill through, all the difficult stuff through, before the Congress party recovered from its defeat.
And
so in my view, that first 6 months was wasted. And the impact of that wastage is still there. The GST has still not been passed. Second, the diversion into all this, beef and all these various silly controversies.
Intolerant debate.
Unnecessary. Complete waste of time. I mean, I don't care who started it, but at the end of the day, it diverted public attention at home and internationally. Okay. So I think the first 1 year was wasted. I do see a huge recovery of space in the last 1 year. And these elections in the last week in these 5 states is a reflection of a recovery of space. I mean, the defeat in Delhi and Bihar was a message about the wastage of the first year. Both Delhi and Bihar happened at the end of the first year. And then the Bengal, the Assam and the Kerala, all of this happened at the end of the second year. And there's a message in that.
Good point. Rajiv, would you agree with him that, a lot of people are arguing that the Prime Minister wasted his first 6 months, there's no Big Bang economic reform, there's not something grab the imagination.
No, so here's my view on it, and I don't want to give grades of 6 or 7 or anything, but I think if you make the point that could more have been done in 2 years, there would be no argument against it. I think yes, more could have been done. But we must also understand what was the starting point of this government. You had an economy that was really in deep trouble. We had a public sector banking system that was halfway down the problems that we are now seeing manifest itself. And we had a government that was new to the job. So, and I think if there is a mistake that the government made early on, it was that first economic survey in June 2014 that effectively said everything is okay in the economy. They started with that premise. And I think that led to, in the first 6-8 months, a lot more incrementalism rather than what Sanjay was saying, that it should have been much more deep. Yes, I agree that maybe there should have been a better prioritization of legislation. I would have preferred GST in the first year rather than the NJAC. I would have preferred a different priority of legislative activity in Parliament, focusing more on the reforms and restructuring part. But having said that, let's be clear about a couple of very significant things. In 2014, the big problem that the government had inherited and investments and economy inherited was this issue of rampant corruption. And I can tell you one thing as somebody who first raised the 2G scam in Parliament in 2008 and 2009. that if you ask anybody in the world or in India today, this government has established clearly a zero tolerance to corruption track record. And that is a big thing. You may think in Delhi, it may be a little bit of an academic point, but for around the world and around the country, it's a big deal.
Also government which Lalit Modi happened, what did the government do?
No, I'm talking about government corruption. Now, I'm not now taking a guarantee for everybody in the BJP or everybody in their extended family in terms of their conduct towards meat and food and religion. That's not what I'm sitting here and defending. But as government focusing on institutions, creating space for institutions, which were the challenges in 14. I'm not a cheerleader for the government. I am reasonably satisfied with where we are. I think they made a lot of mistakes in the first 6-8 months in terms of assuming that the economic cycle hadn't bottomed out yet and that it was on the up. That was a fundamental mistake that they made in that first economic survey. And if you read that survey today, you scratch your head and wonder why Arvind Mayaram wrote that note or wrote that document.
Let me bring in someone who won't give it either 6, 7 or 8 on 10. What is your report card?
No, but I would rather shift to alphabets and not even give them an E for effort. And the reason I say that is, you see, Priya, India has two large strategic challenges. The first is the economy. In the past 2 years, this government has sunk and shrunk the Indian economy. And notwithstanding whatever Rajiv Chandrasekhar might say, despite an economic meltdown in 2008, despite the Eurozone crisis, what this government inherited was an economy which was growing at 7.8% year on year for 10 long years. And those are not my numbers. Those are numbers which have been authenticated and testified. And today, what do you have? Today, you have an economy which is growing at about 4.5 to 5%, because that 2% bump up is because of the change of the base year. And that's why there is a mismatch between the GDP figures of the government and the situation on the ground. Real estate has collapsed. There is no employment creation which is taking place. Even in terms of investments, where are the investments fructifying in terms of increasing the standard of living of the people? And Rajiv talked about the banking sector. Let me take him to Dr. Swami's letter. Dr. Swami's letter says that 3.5 lakh crores of the NPA happened on Raghuram Rajan's watch. And Raghuram Rajan's term, if it is broken up, is 2 years in the NDA and only 1 year in the UPA. The second is they do not know whether they are coming or going on Pakistan. The one big foreign policy challenge which India has, which is Pakistan, they have completely and absolutely messed it up. The third thing is that they are the slayers of institutions. And I say that with a lot of responsibility. You came and demolished the Planning Commission. You replaced it with a 1.5-man act called the Niti Aayog. The term of the 12th plan is coming to an end next year. Nobody knows whether there is going to be a 13th plan or a 7-year plan or a 30-year plan. Who's going to formulate that plan? And number 4, the whole atmosphere of intolerance which they have created across this country. You see, this grand conspiracy that all the writers and intellectuals who returned awards were as a front runners of the Congress party. These are the guys who were most critical of the Congress party all throughout the time that we were ruling. And beginning with them Tara Sehgal.
Be tolerant for 5 minutes, let him come in
I
with
just
his
want
point.
I just want to make the point to Manish, a quick point, Samit. I think Manish is banking on the fact that people have forgotten 2011, 12, 13 and 14. I think he is trying a bit of a reinvention of what the economic situation was there. There was no 7.5% growth. We were in a current account crisis. We were in a fiscal crisis. Gross capital formation was at the lowest ever in a decade. There was investment moving out. The rupee had slid. If anybody today wants to make the point that those years were not economic distress years, they are calculating on the fact that people either didn't understand it or they were not around in India at that time. I was in Parliament, and I can tell you the number of times we discussed this in Parliament. We were in a deep hole when the UPA government left office in 14. There are no two views on this, and anybody who's an economist or even somebody who understands or remembers those days will tell you.
Do you agree with the deep hole? But
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, there's no question that from 2012 to 2014, those last 2 years, or 11 in fact, but 12 certainly, was a disaster. And the author of that disaster, of course, is now sitting in the Rashtrapati Bhavan.
Okay, that we forgot that part.
That's a different story.
That is that's another book which I hope you'll write.
Oh, that's well known. Investment, what was that, retrospective taxation, etc. That killed investment.
That's true.
Let me begin by borrowing a word from Sanjay Baruji's book yet again. I mean, the first change that happened in 2014 was that we saw the ouster of an accidental Prime Minister and we saw a well-meaning Prime Minister ushered into the office. I personally, leave aside, but I belong to the Bharatiya Janata Party. I'm the
Rajiv
national
also
spokesperson
mentioned
for
that,
that.
so,
But I personally believe one of the biggest achievement of this government, which would be in fact going down well with every citizen in this country, is na khaunga, na khane dunga. That declaration was, I think, one of the most important things that the Prime Minister needed to do, to stick to it, which he has done till
We
now.
give you that, but what about the
And
charges raised by
just
Manish?
14 lakh crore rupees was drained in the last 10 years, and this money belonged to the people of the country. So this is a very important achievement of Modi government. He has saved that. Second, he speaks about Pakistan and the flip-flops that we do. Who had in fact brought up the Sarmal Sheikh? In fact, no one was ready. Even Manish was not ready at that point of time to defend Manmohan
I'm sorry, you have got it
were
absolutely
ready.
wrong.
You were probably one.
I'm one
You were the
person,
only one.
I am the only person
Yes,
who has said
Sir,
that.
he has agreed. He's the only one. The Congress was not ready.
The Congress may not be.
Yes,
and I
yes.
hold.
So he's,
and so
he
therefore,
from his
if-
own
if-
mouth
if-
agrees. The
you know,
Congress was not
if
ready, but a good
Balochistan would
erudite
have
lawyer
been
was
discussed
ready.
then,
Well,
you
well,
wouldn't have
well.
had the fiasco
Sir,
that you've done now.
sir,
you know, whereby you've got a serving guy arrested in Balochistan.
Manish himself agrees to the fact that he was the only one who was protecting the then Prime Minister. Even the Congress was not standing behind Sarmal
That's a
Sheikh.
big fight that's been written about.
Secondly,
another story.
only about 3 days ago, we come to know of the fact that on 25th of May 2010, 25 dreaded terrorists were released from various jails across India as a goodwill gesture, including the man who masterminded Pathankot attack, Shahid Latif. Now the Prime Minister, then Mr. Manmohan Singh, after 26/11 Mumbai attack in 2008, comes out and says that no business as usual. And then you have a goodwill gesture where you release 25 dreaded terrorists.
What about your goodwill gesture for allowing a SIT team to come in?
See, that is not a goodwill gesture. That is a strategy, that's the tactic by which NIA would also go and question Masood Azhar there in Pakistan. Well, yes, I would say that our intentions are well-meaning. We have not committed blunders. Yes, wait for a while till they bear fruits. Let's not shout it now and say that, well, we want to see the fruits even today. No, it's not possible that way. Thirdly, he was saying slaying institutions, that we were the ones who were slaying institutions. Who have murdered institutions? As far as institution is concerned, leave aside emergency days, come to the Ishrat Jahan case now. CBI being pitted against Intelligence Bureau. For the first time in this country, the intelligence agencies were being pitted against each other. We can never imagine doing this in the country. And lastly, the intolerance debate. And I'll end it with the rhetoric saying that, well, I had the opportunity to talk to our minister, Minority Affairs Minister, Mukhtar ji. Mukhtar ji was saying that during this intolerance debate, if you remember, the African nations had conglomerated in India for the African Union meeting. The Prime Minister addressed them. The Egypt's president was in a hotel nearby where we are shooting. And in fact, he was watching the Indian television channels and he suddenly says to his PS, please go and look out, I think India is burning. That was the kind of fear-mongering that these people had done.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I'll let Manish come back and have a rebuttal, but a quick break before that. Hello and welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Dr. Varu, you heard all the arguments about the economy, that they inherited a bad economy, that's why they couldn't do a big bang reform. He's saying the intolerance debate has been hyped out of proportion. So what do you make out of all this?
Well, on the economy, I used to hear this argument that they did not understand how seriously bad the economy was. And my only reply is, what happened in 91? Narasimha Rao became Prime Minister out of the blue. He did not even think he was going to become
Unlike
Prime
Modi,
Minister.
who came to offer
Unlike
the
Mr.
blueprint.
Modi, who was planning to become Prime Minister, right? And within 1 month, it's the messaging. It's taking opportunity, when it's staring in your face. Which is why I've been a critic of the first year of this government, that they wasted the first 6 months. To say that we did not know how seriously bad things were is no answer. I mean, there are enough people in Delhi who were aware of what was wrong, and it was a matter of consulting them, talking to them. I think even the outreach was very limited in the first year, listening to what others have to tell you. So I do believe that the first year of this government was wasted. But I also think that in the second year, they've recovered ground. And certainly many of their ministers are now far more adept. The government has recovered ground, which is why we are seeing what we are seeing. On the issue of intolerance, etc., frankly, I think that was exaggerated. I mean, there are professional critics who do. Many of those who are criticizing Mr. Modi used to criticize Dr. Manmohan Singh. I mean, I had to take on a lot of those guys saying Manmohan Singh is selling out India to America.
Yes.
When the nuclear deal was being done. I think the only difference was that, again, this government did not know how to get on top of the situation as far as messaging was concerned.
Yes, which is very ironic considering he's a master communicator.
Priya, may I just answer a couple of things which Sambit had raised? You see, first of all, the point that Rajiv Chandrasekhar made about the economy. The great economic meltdown in 2008 was the single biggest economic disaster after the Great Depression of the 1930s. You look at 2009, 2010, 2011, the economy of India grows at 9%, 9.5%, and again 9%. Number two, Sambit talked about corruption. What about the corruption of Vasundhara Raje Scindia and Lalit Modi? What about the corruption of Shivraj Singh Chauhan in the Vyapam scam? What about the PDS scam in Chhattisgarh? What about this government abetting Vijay Mallya to flee this country? So therefore, therefore, this tom-tomming which they are doing with regard to alleged corruption, in any of these cases today, till today, there has not been a judicial verdict. Okay. And number two, these people may be exulting at the moment, but the audit cycle has just kicked in. You wait another 6 months and you see the skeletons tumbling out of the cupboard.
Quick rebuttal, then I'll go back to.
First, Vijay Mallya is a talked person nowadays, and the oft-made accusation that we allow him to flee the country. Let me correct you, Manish, you are a lawyer. There's a Salkhan Singh case in Delhi High Court which went to the Supreme, there's a case from Supreme Court also that you cannot issue an LOC until and unless there are non-bailable warrants. Secondly, Vijay Mallya, just go to 2013, on the floor of the parliament, Mr. Manmohan Singh, the then Prime Minister himself says, we have to save Kingfisher, despite the fact that by 2010, 2012, everything was clear about Kingfisher, that Kingfisher was nosediving. Why does the Prime Minister have to protect Kingfisher and then you give a bailout package of 3,000 crore to Kingfisher? His loans start from 2004 to 2008. Despite the fact that it was becoming an NPA in 2011, you restructured the loan. And then you ask questions to ask about Vijay Mallya. You should be introspecting.
So if it
or
was
rather a major
problem,
surgery is required.
You should have held him rather than allowing him to flee.
Okay, Rajesh,
on one two-finger intervention, as we call it in seminars. The economy.
Right.
I think the argument that it's the international situation that was only responsible is exaggerated, Manish. I do believe that between 2012, 2013, a series of wrong decisions were taken. The cycle had come down. Everybody knew the growth cycle was coming down. Spending should have been curtailed. You allowed the fiscal deficit to rise. As Rajiv said, they allowed the current account deficit to rise. So there was mismanagement. So it's true that 2003 to 2010, India performed very well, brilliantly in fact, almost average of 9% growth. But 2011, 12, 13 was a disaster.
Okay.
Just a correction.
Okay, any other point on the Mallya case? That the
No.
He wanted to come in on Mallya.
Look, I think I'll start with the Mallya case and I want to make another few points. But
okay.
I mean, look, we all know. And in 2010 in Parliament, I raised the issue of NPAs, and at that time it was 59,480 crores in 2010. That was the total size of the NPA problem. We all know that the government of that day did not do anything about the reckless, directed, crony capitalist lending of public sector banks. Vijay Mallya just happens to be the poster boy for that kind of excessive, corruption-driven lending that the public sector banks were made to do. So now to try and say that Vijay Mallya is the responsibility of this government, Vijay Mallya and every other crony capitalist who overborrowed and created the 6 lakh crore hole is squarely at the doorstep, and I will not take anybody's argument otherwise, at the doorstep of the UPA government. You can say 1 lakh of the 6 lakh crores is because of the last 1 year. You can quibble around the edges. But that problem started in the middle of the UPA, grew to be a fully grown adult with all kinds of deals that were being cut. Raghuram Rajan has written about it. Many chief economic advisors have written about the kind of corruption in public sector banking system. I have to finish this and then Manish can rebut. This issue of, for example, 2008 to 2010 was these great, wonderful years that we were saved. Raghu Rajan has himself written that the stimulus package that was put into place for 2008 to safeguard India against the meltdown globally was ill-designed, ill-conceived, and was responsible for many of the problems that we saw in 11, 12, 13. This outrageous, reckless public spending without a focus on infrastructure, without a focus on investment, but only on consumption with excise tax reductions and so on and so forth, was a doomed to fail thing after the economy recovered. So this is on record. This is not my point of view. The other point I just want to make is, when we are talking about 2 years, look at the things that were stuck in the UPA government that got resolved in this government. And I'll give you some examples. The issue of reforming public sector banks. The problem was known well in the UPA. It is only now that you're reforming the public sector banking system. You look at one rank, one pension. 35 years it has been sitting there in front of successive Congress governments. They did nothing. You look at the National War Memorial. Now, you know, to a lot of people, these may not sound like very important things, especially people in Delhi. But to a lot of people around the country, these are very important things that were stuck in this, you know, in this UPA government, and that got done.
Your side.
No, I'm telling you facts. I'm not taking anybody's side. I like working on facts. You look at, for example, the issue of internet governance, and Sanjay will know this. Dr. Manmohan Singh's government wanted the internet governance to be run by the United Nations by a group of bureaucrats. The global internet governance model propounded by the UPA was that you take it out from the ICANN and give it to a group of bureaucrats, including those of India, who will run and regulate the internet of the future. This was the government of India's formal proposal, where India was allied with Saudi Arabia and China, obviously shining beacons of freedom of expression. 66A, UPA. All of these things got changed in this government. IGF now, internet governance, is by a multilateral, multi-stakeholder body. To argue with me that this has been a bad 2 years, I find it extremely difficult to support that contention.
He is going to try that difficult task.
Let me deal with it one by one. You see, insofar as the problem of NPAs is concerned, if it is a problem that you're trying to put at the UPA's door retrospectively, then why do you have a problem in disclosing the name of all the willful defaulters?
I put it in 2010. I'm not putting retrospectively. I put it at your doorstep in 2010.
You may put it at our doorstep in 2010. Why does this government have a problem in revealing the names of every willful defaulter? No. The thing is that there are people in government who are protecting, you know, a certain very, very powerful crony capitalist interests. And that is why the RBI governor was hounded. Why was the RBI governor hounded? He was hounded because the RBI changed his position on willful defaulters. He was hounded because the RBI ordered an asset quality review, which would have brought all the bad debts on the balance sheets of the public sector banks. He was hounded primarily because he refused to play ball with the government. So therefore, you see, that's why I'm saying they are slayers of institutions. And if Rajiv Chandrasekhar, or the government buys the argument of Rajiv Chandrasekhar, let the name of every willful defaulter be made public. Number two.
That he's okay with.
No. Well, he may be okay with, the government is not okay with. And finally, you see, this is the government. Okay, if we performed badly, people punished us. They've elected them. And in the past 2 years, forget everything else. Even on a simple thing of depositing 15 lakh rupees into everybody's bank account by bringing black money back in 100 days. They have not even been able to fulfill that.
Yes, let me come to that.
Okay, quickly, because we are totally out of time, so I'll give you...
See, as far as this 15 lakh is concerned, every day evening I say, this is like the kidnapper teasing the police. You know, the kidnapper kidnaps the person and then in the evening returns back to see what the police is doing. Where is the child? Where is the child? It's just like
Your
the one.
Thanedar promised to recover the child in 100 days.
Just a second, just a second, just a second, just a second.
On
That's
that,
how it
I'm
is.
going to... We're totally out
The
of time.
ones who ran away with the black money are the ones who are teasing us every evening. Don't worry, very soon we are going to recover it.
On that note, I'm going to end now. As you can see, this is a debate that's going to carry on. But from us, that's all for now. Thank you for watching this edition of Roundtable. We'll see you again, same time next week.